Hope y'all don't mind a little music.
This is Warpath. Be advised we have additional choppers from the 160.
Hello there, Sarah from 17 once again, bringing you the beginning of my Homefront video walkthrough on Guerrilla difficulty. And this is a new first-person shooter to grace the PS3 and the Xbox. I'm assuming it's been released on PC, but in all honesty, I don't give a fuck about PC because my PC is shit. And it's your standard first-person shooter, set against the backdrop of a storyline written by the guy that originally penned Red Dawn and I think Apocalypse Now. So believe it or not, this does have a pretty decent narrative strung throughout it, and some interesting, different futures. Cause in this world, Korea have occupied America and enslaved it basically. So it's this whole giant revolution against these oppressors, and that's what this game is. This is you playing I think he's a chopper pilot. I can't remember his name, but you join up with the resistance, and you're going through different parts of America trying to rebel against these Korean oppressors and do what you can to help the military, get back their own country. Cause in this future, America is pretty fucked. Everything you know and love is gone basically. And because the start of this game's pretty slow, it's this walking around bullshit, and I'm showing you some things that's supposed to freak you out, I'm going to give you a general laydown of what I thought about the game. And I'm going to take a nice sip from a can of Foster's I've got, because it's nice and chilled, and it's quite late. But I got this game today. This is Saturday, for anybody wondering, the day after this game came out. I got it on a rental service, and I started playing the game at just gone maybe 3 o'clock in the afternoon. And by 11 o'clock at night, I had beat the game twice and finished recording my hardest difficulty walkthrough. So for anybody that's going to be buying this game purely for the single player, that should probably tell you that Homefront is not the game for you. As it stands right now, I haven't touched the multiplayer, so I couldn't tell you how good that is or if it's worth checking out for the multiplayer, but I'm definitely going to be checking that out as soon as I can and getting in there and killing some dudes on some crazy big maps. But as of right now, I've played the campaign twice, and it's a pretty good game. A lot of the reviews I saw were shitting on the campaign, saying it was too short and it just didn't, live up to the Call of Duties and the Battlefields and all that kind of shit. And in all honesty, it's a completely different game to those kind of games, and I enjoyed it. And I mean, right there, those dudes just take out that little kid's mum and dad, and that's kind of the tone for this entire game. This is not meant to be an enjoyable first-person shooter as far as the setting. This is supposed to show you completely, subservient to this superior force that are everywhere, and this constant menacing presence that you're trying to, rebel against. And the shooting in its tight, I think. I mean, the aiming is a little loose, and I've got to say that much because I've even upped the sensitivity, and sometimes I just can't seem like I can get on target. The guns, although there's not that many of them, I think there's something like 3 SMGs, 3 assault rifles, and 3 light machine guns. They're all pretty similar, but they all work effectively. It's generally 2 to 3 bullets to kill dudes, so I enjoyed that aspect of the game. And it is pretty short, there's only 7 chapters, but it's long enough so that you can enjoy it and not too long that it pisses you off, basically. And yeah, it's not going to change your life. That's probably the best thing I can say. This is one of those games that you pick up, definitely rent. That's the first thing I'm going to say. If you're buying this game, you're doing something wrong. You want to be renting it. But yeah, we're coming up to the first part of the gameplay. So I'm not going to give you any, arbitrary figures or anything like that. I'm just going to basically say this is a decent game for what it is. It does look kind of ugly at times, but it's got an interesting looking aesthetic, because it's kind of the American dream gone bad, and it's a solid shooter that does have problems. And some of the problems that I'll probably mention is the collision detection, and I generally say clipping. Whenever you've ever heard me say goddamn clipping, it's been in reference to collision detection, because when you're on a PC, if you go into certain mods and certain modes, it can turn clipping off, and that enables you to run through surfaces and never clip on any objects. So that's why I believed it was called clipping, but it's apparently called collision detection, and this game is fucking rife with it. Like, there's moments where you can't move because both your team pin you in because you can't get past them, even though there is a physical gap because the collision is saying that there's an object there when there really isn't. And times when you're shooting around the side of a car and you've got your aimer bang on a dude and you're aiming over the car, yet it's registering as if you're hitting the car because the collision detection is fucking you again. I also don't like the fact that you can't select which controls you want to map to what. It's very binary about how it wants you to control the game. So you can't actually choose a tactical layout like you would on Call of Duty, which would allow you to, you know, change your knife and your crawl and your crouch buttons. So the drop shotting on this game is there because you can go into prone really quickly, but you can't do it effectively because you have to take your hand off the second analog and it'll fuck you all the time, and that really bugs me. But that's just a pet peeve, that's just me and a preference that I have in games. Another thing that I thought was a little off is the movement speed in this game is reduced a little bit. It gives your character a definite feeling of weight. It's not quite as bad as Killzone, but it's not quite as, you know, it's kind of along the lines of Battlefield and Medal of Honor. So if you've been playing a lot of Call of Duty, it's going to initially feel a little bit slow, and you'll notice at the start of this guide, this is the start of my second run through the game, and straight away I'm not completely used to the shooting mechanics yet. My shot is a little slow to get on target, and my sensitivity just isn't down, and it's those tweaks that you have to work out, you know, by playing the game for a while. And fortunately enough, midway through this guide I do kind of wake up to how the game feels, and I get a lot more helpful for your guys, hopefully. But I'm trying to think of the other things that bug me about the game. Right now, if you stay on this left side of this room, it's pretty good cover, but just be careful because these guys will come in through the main entrance and they will fuck you up. And if your screen goes like that, obviously go prone as quickly as you can and get in cover, because if you don't, you're going to die. And your life regenerates surprisingly quickly on this game, and that is definitely one of the best features. I really enjoyed that, because on some games you'll be sat behind the fucking piece of cover for weeks on end and you'll still not have regenerated your life, and there's nothing worse. But this game's pretty good with that, and it helps because the enemies have ridiculous aim. The enemies will shoot you from almost any range, and you're getting view kicked to fuck, so you can't shoot them back. And I don't know, it's kind of weird. And a lot of the times, if you see the enemies, it's not like the Call of Duty rules. It doesn't shoot from their head or anything like that, so they can full on be looking the wrong direction and still be shooting you. I had one guy shooting his gun to the right of me, but the bullets were coming out directly hitting me, and that kind of fucked me up. But one interesting thing to note as well on this is there is a nice variety in the reticles, in the aiming mechanics, and the optics. And I think there's 3 different versions of the red dot sight, there's 3 different versions of the ACOG, and I think there's 3 different versions of the holographic as well. And each one is slightly different. And I think that's kind of cool, because if you've ever been stuck on a gun that's got a sight that you really don't like how it looks, a good example I could say would be on Black Ops when you use the Stayer AUG. I really do not like the reflex, the ACOG, sorry, on that gun, because it's the one that's built into the model of the bullpup, and it does the circle with the like translucent circle in the middle, and I really don't like that. I'm not an ACOG fan as it is. I really don't like ACOGs in shooters. The main reason for that is because they seem to take too long and they seem to obscure too much of the screen, so I don't enjoy playing with them. And you'll notice I look over weapons a lot because I'm pretty picky when it comes to firearms in games. I find guns that I enjoy, and I find guns that I'm comfortable with, and I tend to stick with them through the game. And that's one thing I would advise you guys to do as well. Whichever gun you find works best for you, that you're more comfortable with, stick with it, because it's going to help you in the long run. And there's a gun that I use for a majority of this game that I would not even go near in other first-person shooters because I don't like the type of weapon, but on this game it's pretty much a one-bullet kill. But I'll come to that in a bit. But in this early part of the game, it's introducing you the controls, it's introducing you to the characters and the setting and everything, so it's not too bad. I'm just stabbing at air for some reason. But as far as your weapon setup goes, I would definitely advise you to go with an assault rifle and to go with a submachine gun. And the reason I say this is because your assault rifle will handle the range, and the submachine gun is for all the up-close encounters. and that is the best way to approach the game. Because sometimes the assault rifles up close will do fuck all, and sometimes, you know, the submachine guns at range are just not what they need to be. So you've got every range covered basically. And the gun I'm using right now, I can't remember its name, is probably my favourite assault rifle on the game, because early on it seems to kill people in 1 or 2 bullets. It's really accurate, and I've got it there with the third red dot sight, which is my favourite red dot sight on this game, shortly followed by this one I've got on this submachine gun. And it's a really fun gun to use. One rule that I would apply on this game for pretty much all of it, I don't know if it's the same in the multiplayer, but tap fire, never hold the trigger. The guns don't have that much significant recoil, but when you tap it, almost every weapon, regardless of if it's fully automatic, will fire a single shot. And that way you can conserve your ammunition, you can conserve, you know, where your bullets go, so you can get everyone on target. And another thing to note as well, when you're in close quarters environments, don't neglect the knife. The knife is so quick on this game, it's unbelievable. The enemies go to melee you and you will knife them in one fraction of the time it takes them to do their animation, so it's kind of not fair in some elements. But this is the first real battlefield of Homefront on this first level, which is entitled Why We Fight, which I probably should have said earlier. But the thing I like to do on this part is I stay up on this balcony and I like to snipe the guys, but as you can see, my aim's kind of atrocious because I'm still not up with the sensitivity yet, but I'll get there. And as soon as that happens, that pretty much tells you that you've got to move on, and then from here it's just a case of intelligently pushing forward, using the best cover you can, and then just taking out dudes, and just be careful because there's a lot of them. So I've got my submachine gun on now and I'm doing a bit of burst fire, do what I can, and I'm getting lit up like shit, so you've just got to be careful of that. The grenades on this game as well don't throw as far as you think they would, and the radius on them is pretty shitty, but they are useful, so make sure you use them. And just use your cover, play it intelligent. You've played first person shooters before, this one is no different. Only, I mean, sometimes this game can be really merciless. You can get full on 1 to 2 shotted out of nowhere. It's really bad. And then other times it's not too bad at all. In fact, the general difficulty of this entire game is pretty low. You shouldn't have much trouble with it. It's not like a Call of Duty on Veteran. It's not that kind of craziness. But there's one section on I think it's chapter 6 or chapter 5, I think, and the entire level you spend being stealthy with a sniper rifle with your friends. You kind of run around the old level, they tell you who to shoot and all that kind of stuff. It's all good and well, and then right at the end you have to run to a chopper where your buddies are waiting for you, and between you and the evacuation area is 2 spawning points, and it's an unlimited spawn for some reason, and it's the most ridiculous thing I've ever fucking seen in a game in a long time. And the reason for this is, on this game, you take maybe 2 to 3 bullets before you get killed, and the enemies are very accurate. When they're in high numbers, they will strip you down before you even know they were there. It's full on bullshit. And that section, you have a sniper rifle and you have an assault rifle, and it doesn't really matter what guns you've got because you're going to get fucked either way. But you're pushing forward to try and get to this chopper, and on both sides of where you have to go through, there's just tons of dudes coming, and there's even the spawn points where they come from on the far left and the far right, so they are spawning where you need to be, and it's just unbelievable. But that's the first part of the first level guide of my Homefront guide. So I hope you guys enjoy it, and thanks for watching. You take care now.